And that doesn't change overnight, bro. Like what, you know, a lot of people don't see, and I'm not going political at all here. I'm just like pointing out a point of reference over the last 4 years. Like a lot of people don't see any good that's come out of Trump being president. I remember when I was in Singapore when he got elected, and I was like, this is like we're like in a sitcom or like
Yeah.
the false reality TV
You
show
were in
now.
Singapore when he got elected?
When he got elected,
So
yeah.
you're in Singapore when I was in London. Did they talk a lot of shit?
No, people were just like, "Oh, you're American. How do you feel about Trump being your president?" I'm like, I don't know. Like
Yeah.
we had two people who the younger
No one
generation
wanted.
nobody really wanted. So I
Yeah.
don't, we just got one of them.
That was basically
flip
my
a coin.
answer.
It's like 50-50.
Exactly.
But what I was gonna say is, if there's been one good thing that's come out of him being president, it's that people are no longer putting all of the responsibility on leaders and saying you need to fix this and you need to do that. That is a devil that the American dream has created. Like it's so like, oh, I'm helpless and my vote doesn't count and I can't do anything, therefore I'm going to make somebody who has influence do it. No, step up and do something. Like if you're adamant about something,
That's
like
true.
if you're committed to a cause, you better be willing to die for it. And people hate to hear that now because they don't want to put any skin in the game. But like that is where purpose comes from. And everyone wants to be liked and everyone wants to say like, oh, these are my positive experiences and my life is beautiful. But then you go and talk to that person and you're like, I'm not getting the same story that your Instagram
Oh, bro, you see that all the time out here.
is posing. So when I wrote my book, actually, I learned about cancel culture when I moved out here to LA, like, well, right around then. My brother is a signed music artist, so he's a little bit more like in that realm than I am.
Yeah.
But when I wrote my book, I almost wrote my book like anti fame, like anti popularity, because I was talking about all of my failures and like I don't want to say like woe is me, like I'm such a despicable person, but like all of the wrongs and the shortcomings and the failings I had, because I wrote the book not for people to hear that about me, but so that people could read that book and be like, I need to start talking about my life more.
Yeah.
Like your story is interesting. And I wrote that book so that I could stop talking about myself,
Yeah.
and that I could just get back into regular relationship with
Yeah.
people. And so that people can read this and be affected by that and say, you know what, like I had some similar experiences and I never told anybody about that failure because I was so ashamed of it. I was scared that I was going to be rejected for it. Like people need to hear these things, because if all we're hearing is positive, positive, positive all the time, what happens is it's just neutral. And the same thing that's happening with Instagram is it's just a dopamine center. It's an addiction center where people log in and they're like, oh, I like that. Oh, I like that. Oh, I like that. I like this a little bit more. I'm going to favorite it. And then everything just becomes gray. And there's not really any change. There's no dips. There's no peaks. There's nothing. Life becomes static and it's not dynamic whatsoever. And we have like this desire as human beings for adventure and change and
Yeah.
like the excitement of life. And people are trying to find that in different ways, whether it's through like drugs or like being wild. And I definitely excelled at all of that stuff and doing crazy stuff because I was looking for something more adventurous and I wasn't taking life as it came to me. I was trying to set the parameters on my life and the controls on my life and set what every other person thought of me, and I was creating a false narrative and a false agenda for my life. And I was so committed to it that you could have told me that you did that before and it didn't work, and I'd be like, yeah, but that's you. I'm going to do this for me because I'm going to make it happen. And I was foolish, and I'm glad I fell hard because there was my life legitimately sucked. Like I had incredible experiences and like I look back on them with fondness, but it actually sucked and I was miserable. And there was nothing in the world that could actually satisfy me. And a lot of our generation is doing the same thing. They're like, you can't tell me nothing. Like, I'm going to do it for myself because I know what I do for my life and I control my destiny. And like, you don't know me. And like that fear that like lashes out at somebody else who's trying to help you. You don't know me. You don't know my life is foolishness. I'm not saying to listen to everybody, but listen to those that care about you and love you and you don't have to listen to them all the time, but maybe once in a while.
Yeah.
It'll help you from like going down your own path of destruction, hitting rock bottom, and then be like, what am I doing here? I wonder how I got here. You know, like I felt like I had to experience all of this, and it was all before I was like 22.
Yeah.
And it sucked. So I wrote my story to like remind people like, hey, share a little bit more. Don't isolate so much. Like you have to believe in the wrong things sometimes to come to know what you believe in is right. Or like that you need to make a shift and you need to make a change, and what you're doing in life is actually purpose. Like don't just be barking at anyone who opposes what you think because that's what's popular right now. Like embrace one of your friends who does not hold the same values at all, because as soon as you make that person an enemy, you become your own enemy. And that's foolish. To surround yourself like trees that grow in an environment that doesn't stress them, they easily get ripped out of the ground. I don't want to be a tree that gets ripped out of the ground easily. I want to be there to stay. I want to make an impact, and I want to help impact an environment that I'm around. I want to help nourish the rest of the environment that I'm around. I don't want to be ripped up by like a gust of wind or like, you know, a wave in the sea, something like that. I want to be something that stands the test of time. And that's the only way that you can do that, is like caring for people who don't necessarily hold the same perspectives, ideals, or beliefs that you do in your life.
Yeah, I feel like that's huge with just society today. I don't know if it's our generation specifically. I don't feel like it is, but maybe more so as our generation becomes adults. But surrounding yourself, like, did you watch The Social Dilemma?
No, but I heard it's incredible.
Yeah, you need to watch that, because it's kind of exactly what you're talking about, and it again relates to social media, where these algorithms that they've designed. So no one's the scariest fucking thing. I might hit a spoiler alert here. Care if I talk about it for you? The scariest fucking thing that I learned on there is that they've designed these algorithms to obviously benefit their social media platforms, all of them. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, Tumblr, whatever, all of them. And there's like high level, vice presidents, original engineers who are the ones speaking. It's all like interviewing in this documentary. And so they've made these algorithms, and they're competing with each other to literally just get you to spend as much time as possible on their app, because your time is money for them. Yep. So they're literally trying to steal your time, and they're trying to pay attention to what you like. So you put yourself in this bubble. The algorithm does. So it sees what you like, what you click on. It literally, at least they're saying on there, I didn't fucking know this, tracks how much time whatever it is on your screen as you're scrolling. Yeah. So then it figures out what you like and just keeps feeding you that. Yeah. And so you never see a different opinion or a different point of view. And it was just highlighting of that's a major fucking problem in the technology today, and why things seem so divided, because what you're seeing and what you like on your social media is completely different than somebody else. And if you guys think differently, then whatever it is that you think is just continuously being reinforced by whatever you see and whatever you interact with on your social media, which is a massive part of people's lives. And it just, you never get like an understanding of the other perspective,
bro.
And then people get so offended because they're saying, I see this all over. How do you not fucking believe this? Or how do you not understand this? Why do you think like that? And they're so upset or offended because that's all they see. So they don't understand how someone else wouldn't get that.
Yeah, bro. And you know what's so fascinating is like growing up, you're like, nobody would ever like trust like a crack addict or like a heroin addict because you're like, you're like, oh, they're not in their right mind. Yeah. Like they're like almost like under a spell of something. They're under a drug, but like they're under the spell of something else. Like they see things differently in their mind. Like things that are natural are not natural to them, and things that are unnatural to them should be natural to everyone else.
Their head's fucked up a little bit.
And yet we have the same addictivity, addictiveness in social media as there are in drugs. And like there have been psychological studies that like the algorithms within Instagram, is particularly Instagram or Twitter, are like so just as addictive as like dangerous drugs. And we would never call ourselves addicts. We'd be like, no, like I'm not on a drug. But anything that's using up like your chemical imbalance at like a catalyzed rate, that is a form of addiction.
Yeah.
And we're addicted to our own narratives. And then when we come across somebody who's not addicted to our narrative, we're like, how dare you not be addicted to my narrative? You know what I mean? It's
you don't fucking like my drugs?
You like crack and I like heroin. How dare you? You know, like you got to be out of your mind. And then, but like whatever
it's a great fucking analogy.
Can be used to pit people against one another is what is just like fueling hatred right now.